channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a day in the life of a 1950s housewife. I thought this would be so much fun to do, and I actually got the idea from Love Meg's channel. She made a video like this and I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to make my own. But this one will be slightly different because this is a day in the life of a British 1950s housewife. So all of the research I have done is about women in the UK at that time. So I really hope you like it. I've used a few different books to research this and I've got like really into it. It's just so interesting how they used to live. And I also spoke at length to my mother about my grandma and how she was a mother in the 1950s and things that they would do. Yes, so to the best of my ability, I'm going to live like a 1950s housewife all day long, and that means things like no technology, no phone, no email. There's just a few things that I have had to cheat on. For instance, I'm using the normal nappies that we use instead of cloth nappies, and if the kids go out in the car, we're obviously going to use car seats and safety things like that. But pretty much this is our 1950s day. So I really hope you enjoy this video and make sure you stay tuned to the end, because at the end I will be giving a little rundown on things that I liked and things that I didn't like and my experience in general. So yeah, if you enjoy this, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Let me know what you think, and now let's step back in time. Okay, so first things first, the night before I did this day in the life, I went to the salon and had my hair blow dried and pin curled, because back in the 1950s you would just have your hair washed once a week at the salon and put into curls like this. I'm also wearing a nightie on this morning because back then they would wear nighties. I actually found this one on ASOS and it's really cute. It has rainbows all over it and I actually loved wearing it as well. The hardest thing about this day was taking the technology away from the children. Obviously there were no iPads and things like that back then. For breakfast they would have toast, cold cereal, porridge and things like that. I'm actually making porridge on the stove this morning because obviously they didn't have microwaves. I would normally do it in a microwave, and I'm just making simple toast. Because the war didn't end until the 50s, there was still rationing until 1954. So although I would immediately think of like an English breakfast, they actually had a much more simple breakfast. And I'm having a cup of tea this morning. Back then they would not have used tea bags though. They would have had loose tea leaves, and if they wanted a coffee they would have ground it themselves each morning. So I'm just going to feed the boys and then I'm going to go off and get ready for the day. So I'm going to put on a full face of makeup, and this actually wasn't that different for me because I do put on makeup every single morning. And then I'm going to see how my hair has turned out.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh.
I was surprised at how well the curls turned out and how comfortable they were to sleep on. And I will show you what I'm wearing today. I'm not actually wearing any earrings because back then lots of women didn't have their ears pierced. And I'm just going to wear a very simple dress to get on with my housewife duties today. The hardest thing for me to do all day was to ask Matt for money before he left for the day. Back then there would be one breadwinner and you would have to ask for your allowance, and that was really, really difficult because I'm so used to having all of my own money. And now I'm going to take Fraser off to school, and on the way home Jackson fell asleep. I'm back from the school run and I did cheat a little bit because I took the car, and in the 1950s a family would have just one car and it would go to work with your husband, so you would have had to have walked or taken the bus, but I did drive. So but I'm back now and my baby Jackson is just having a nap, so I'm gonna get on with the housework because that is my role as a housewife. So I have now put on a little like pinny to protect my dress, and I am loving my hair so much. I'm so gonna actually do this. But to protect my hair, I'm going to put it up and put like a little scarf on, because back then that is what you did so that you wouldn't get dust and stuff in your hair. So I'm going to put a little scarf on and get on with housework. So first of all I'm going to clean up from breakfast, and then I'm going to get on with all of my other duties. While I was researching this, I could not believe how much cleaning they would do in a day. They basically do my weekly cleaning routine every day. And obviously there were no dishwashers back then, so I had to wash the dishes by hand, and I did this 3 times today, and I really missed my dishwasher by the end of it. Then I'm going to straighten out the kids' toy areas, but in the 1950s, kids would not have had anywhere near this many toys. They luckily did have hoovers though. They were invented in 1951, so I could vacuum, and they would dust every single day as well, whereas currently I dust every week. And they also had washing machines. They weren't obviously as advanced as they are now, but I could put a load of laundry on. Then I'm just going to go upstairs and make all of the beds. The one chore that fascinated me the most, and one we really don't do anymore, is how much pride women took on how clean their front step was. This was a big tradition back in the 50s. Women would sweep their steps and then wash them. They would wash them and polish their front stone once a week. And you know, you could tell a lot from how clean a woman's front step was. Obviously the roads back then were made of dirt as well, so they would get really quite dirty, and your front step would actually be made of stone, so you would polish it. This was called donkey stoning. I think it was more popular up north, but this was like a big thing to do, and women would get very competitive on how clean their front step was. And it also became quite a social thing because all the women would do it at the same time in the street, and they would also use that time to gossip and catch up. And now I'm going to plan dinner for this evening. Back in the 1950s, women would go food shopping every single day. They had very small fridges, and whereas I would now get recipes from the internet, obviously I'm going to have to use a recipe book, and my mother would have taught me growing up to keep an accounts book. So I'm going to make a note of how much money I've been given by my husband and then work out what I can make with that budget. And apparently the butcher would become your best friend, because you could literally go to your butcher and say, I only have £1 today. What meat can I get to feed my husband? And they would always work from a list and not kind of go off of that list or impulse buy, because that would obviously cost more money. At about 11 o'clock every morning, housewives were allowed to take a little break, so they would either listen to the radio or swat up on how to be an even better wife. Jackson just woke up from his nap, and I swear, look at him. He's been looking me up and down. He looked at my lipstick, he looked at my scarf thing, and he looked at my apron, and he just looked at me and was like, what is going on? Now that I have my list, I'm going to freshen up before we go to the shops, because women would always try and look their best before they left the house. And I'm going to walk there today because obviously I only have one car, and that has gone to work with my husband. And I've got Jackson the sweetest little baby bonnet, because this is what babies would wear when they go out. And it's so funny. I actually think he really liked it. He's also wearing a little blue cardigan, but back then they didn't really have gender specific clothes. People never knew what they were going to have, so babies often wore white, green or yellow. You like walking more than the car, don't you? You do? Here we go. When I got to our local farm shop, I made sure that I stuck to my list, and I did speak to my butcher, but I was too chicken to film it. Back then as well, lots of women would buy canned food or jarred food, because that would keep for even longer. On the way home, I stopped at the park. I'm pretty sure they had parks back then, and I wanted to give Jackson some attention. In the 50s, lots of people thought that babies were pretty much oblivious to what was going on around them, and that made me really sad, so I wanted to stop at the park and play with him, although I don't really know if they would do this as much in the 50s. Right, I'm running home now because it looks like it's gonna rain. I don't have an umbrella. I would have hated walking to the shops every day, even in winter, but now that I'm home, I'm going to put away all my shopping. I did get ice cream. Back then there were no freezers, but they would have an ice box, so if you bought any frozen food or ice cream, that was okay. It would keep for the day, but you'd have to eat it all on that day. I made it home and we missed the rain, so that was a result, because I was worrying about my hair, but I've sweated so much running from the shop that it's probably a bit ruined anyway. But now I'm gonna get on with lunch. I'm cheating again. I've put a show on TV for Jackson while I make his lunch, because otherwise he would be a little bit bored. So I've tried to get spam or like meat in a can, like corned beef, but my local shop didn't have any of that. So I'd never tried that before, but apparently that was like a big thing to have in the 50s. You would have like a corned beef sandwich or something. So I didn't get that. So the next closest thing I could think of was tuna. So I'm gonna have a tuna sandwich for lunch. I found wearing an apron all day so practical. I actually really enjoyed wearing it because I didn't mess my clothes up. And then after lunch again, I had to do the dishes. Jackson has just gone down for his second nap of the day, so I'm gonna get on with a bit more cleaning and also prepare our dessert for this evening, because in the 1950s, you would have a proper dessert every evening and it would have been made from scratch. So I'm making my grandmother's recipe for apple crumble. So I'm gonna prepare that now so that when we are having dinner tonight, I can just put it in the oven. So yeah. So this recipe is quite simple. You just need apples, flour, sugar, butter, and oatmeal as well. So it only took me about 20 minutes to prep. And in the 1950s, you would teach your little girls how to cook and also get them to help you with housework. Caleb is so used to cooking with me though. As soon as he got home from preschool, he really wanted to help me. And of course, I let him. So he helped me cook, but you obviously wouldn't need to teach a boy this when they were young. And another chore I needed to do once the washing machine was finished was hang all the laundry out on the line, because they didn't have tumble dryers back then. And traditionally, after the war, after rationing, they would have tea and cake at about 3 o'clock, but I just couldn't face it. It was just so heavy. Once my eldest was also home from school, I decided to take the kids to the park because I didn't want them to be on the TV or ask for their iPads, etc. Back then in the 50s, you would just let your kids play out in the street with other kids or play in the garden. But obviously it's not that safe to do nowadays, especially at my children's young ages. So I just took them to the park and it was actually really nice, and they were so tired by bedtime. It was great for them to get all of that fresh air. So I've just got back in from the park and the kids are all starving, so I'm gonna do a really quick like omelette and maybe some beans, or like beans on toast, something really easy like that. Because of their ages and they are so young, they're not gonna last for like the dinner this evening. And I guess if I hadn't taken them to the park, I would have just been at home like maybe cooking, so I could have made like a proper dinner. But anyway, that is the situation today. So I'm gonna go ahead and feed them and then try to also put Matt's dinner in the oven. So back in the 50s, people would have meat and 2 veg. So I got some very cheap chicken legs from the butchers, and I'm literally just going to season them with salt and pepper and roast them. That's all they would do. And I'm also doing some potatoes and some onion. I think even this is a bit like jazzier than they would do. And again, I'm just seasoning it with salt and pepper. I'm then going to try and clean the house, because the idea is that your house is like all clean by the time your husband gets home, and dinner on the table as well. And what women would do is go ahead and bath their children before their husband gets home, so that when their husband did get home, there would be all these nice clean children in clean pajamas, and the house would be clean and everything would be lovely. And it's just so different nowadays. But I'm going to go ahead and get all 3 children to bed, and then I'm also going to put Matt's dinner in the oven. The boys are in bed and the dinner is in the oven, and Matt is due home in about 15 minutes. So now it's time for me to freshen up and get ready to greet my husband. And in the book that I've been reading, it says I should greet my husband gaily. So that's what I will do. I'm going to redo my makeup, hair, and change into like a nicer dress. Totally loving this dress, but I feel slightly like a crazy person, and I think Matt is gonna think I've lost the plot, because I got this on Amazon really cheap, and it's like a proper 50s dress. I love it. I think I may have taken this video a bit too far. Anyways, before Matt gets home, I'm just going to set the table. And back then as well, you would lay out their newspaper for them to read, their cigarettes and a drink. Matt doesn't smoke or drink, so I've just got a Coke for him because that is something that he likes. Then all I have to do is greet my husband gaily at the door, who is probably wondering what on earth is going on. And then I'm going to dish up our dinner. Considering it was quite a plain dinner, it was actually quite nice, and I think Matt enjoyed it. Right, so that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. And now I'm just gonna give a little rundown of what I liked about the 1950s and what I didn't. The first things that I really liked were the fashion and also having my hair done at a salon. And I think having my hair done somewhere once a week is an amazing idea, and I've actually booked my wash and pin curl for next week already. So that is one thing I might carry on. And yeah, I love the fashion. I actually think it's really sweet that you like freshen up for your husband. Not that he like ever really would notice. I think half the time when he walks in, we don't even look at each other. But it's just a nice idea. I mean, maybe not to this extent, but it's a nice idea to maybe like put some perfume on or something like that. So I liked all of that. Things I didn't like, I felt a little bit stressed because there was just so much to get done, and it seems like, you know, there's this pressure to have it all ready for when your husband gets home. Whereas at the moment, I do have cleaning jobs and things like that that have to get done, but if they're not done by the time Matt gets home, like, he's not gonna care. I also missed the dishwasher so much. That is like the best invention ever, and I missed the tumble dryer as well. While I was researching for this video, I found myself getting really angry at some of the things that I read. Things like it's unwomanly to go to university, and like a housewife should know her place, and that a housewife shouldn't complain, and that if my husband like comes home late or not at all, I shouldn't ask him where he's been. And also when he gets in, one thing said that I should talk in like a soft spoken voice and let him do all the talking, because what he has to say is more important than what I have to say. So I found myself getting really angry when I was reading it, and I wouldn't consider myself like some big feminist at all, like considered nowadays. Yeah, but in the 1950s, I definitely would have been campaigning for women's rights, and I would have missed working so much. Being a housewife and a stay-at-home mum is a massive job in itself, but I found myself wanting to reach for my phone and my emails, and like, I don't know, like I like having my channel, I like having a thing, and I've always worked alongside you know, being a mom and stuff. And I think if it was just day in, day out, you know, looking after your husband and kids, I think maybe unless you were appreciated by your husband, you'd feel a bit like, I don't know. But then back then, maybe they thought that that was like the best job in the world. I don't know, but I think I definitely would have missed working. And my mum told me a story about my grandma. She had 4 children, and you know, she was a stay-at-home like housewife. And once her 4 children were all like a bit older and off to school, she said to my grandpa, her husband, that she would like to volunteer and help this charity. So she was just gonna literally volunteer her time for something to do. And apparently they had a massive argument about it, because he did not want a wife of his to work in any capacity. She wasn't even gonna earn money. She was just gonna volunteer. But like, even that was a problem. So it's interesting. And yeah, I've really enjoyed doing this. I found it so much fun to like research it and stuff. I know I've gone a bit like, it started out as like a fun, cute vlog, and now it's ended up as like some crazy, like long-winded video. But I really enjoyed it, and I think I should have studied history because I find it all so fascinating. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think, and if you want me to do the next decade, the 1960s, I will definitely do that for you. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye guys! This apple crumble would feed about 9 people, and I burnt it a bit.